And using this new system, the CRA's new automated and free process, they'll need to just provide a few details, confirm their information on a pre-filled out tax form from the CRA.
Well, nothing new with the Liberal government. They're either going to threaten you, they're going to spy on you, or they're going to try to bribe you. Welcome back to the Canadian Shield. My name is Sterling. I think the Liberal government and Mark Carney realize that their numbers are slipping pretty badly and that they're not performing up to anybody's standards, and they're getting desperate. Of course, the first thing that you want to do when you get desperate is to try to throw buckets of money at everybody. They threw buckets of money at the boomers, and the boomers voted for them. Now they want to throw buckets of money at what they're calling the 5 million Canadians that live below the poverty line. 5 million. I mean, consider what that indicates for our culture, and that just they gloss right over. And they want to try to convince you that if you just give them permission to look through every aspect of your life, well, they'll just send you free checks randomly because, you know, that's what they want to do. And of course, the problem with that is that they will always forever be spying on you, no matter how much your life improves, no matter how much your life changes. In addition to that, they're targeting a very specific subset of the people that are living below the poverty line. They want to gloss over it. They want to try to make Canadians think that it's all about everybody, but it's really only about specific people because those are the people that are most likely to vote for them. However, before we get into that, I want to encourage all of you to check that you're still subscribed, check that you are getting the notification bell, share this channel with all of your socials. All right, let's get into this. On the Friday before Thanksgiving, Mark Carney made these announcements. He talked about how he's extending the museum pass, which he claims is a big deal, but I don't see how any... I did a report on the museum pass when he first announced it, the Canada Strong pass when he first announced it. And really, it's free for people under the age of, I think, 17 and half price for anybody under the age of 25. Everybody else is paying full price. I don't know that 17-year-olds are lining up around the block to go into museums. I mean, I can't say for certain, but something tells me that they are not super duper, not so interested that we have to make a big deal about extending the deadline on it. The other thing he talked about was how he's going to make the school food program permanent, which of course is targeting a very specific subset, right? We're talking about inner city people who can't afford to send their children to school with a lunch. That's who they want their vote from, and we can cover that. I'll get into that. And of course, they're worried about your vote because they know that the NDP is probably going to be in a position to trigger an election come the spring. And they realize that their numbers are slipping because even though Donald Trump can negotiate a deal with Hamas and Israel, Mark Carney can't seem to negotiate a deal with Donald Trump, right? He can do it with two of these, sworn enemies, but he can't do it with Mark Carney. So they're very worried, and the winter's coming in, and they're going to lose all of the boomer base because no matter what you tell yourself, the boomers are not going to be sleeping in trailers when the dead of winter sets in. They're off to Florida, you can be sure. So they make these announcements on the weekend before Thanksgiving so that it's a Friday, and then they're in through 3 days in a row, so there can't be very little scrutiny over the announcements. Now, I'll talk about the first announcement that he makes because I find it a little bit more diabolical than the other two. The other two are just simply, hey, please vote for us because look at all the, look, we're going to give your kids lunch. And he talked about how he's making it permanent. And I will say it again. I've said it once, I'll say it again. There's no permanence in legislation. Just because he wants to be permanent, doesn't he wants you to believe that it'll be permanent, means nothing. All you need is a new parliament, and that whole thing gets thrown down a drain. It's simple. Don't be fooled by it is the point I'm trying to make. Now, I want to draw your attention to this picture. This is the opening shot of this announcement. That's Philip Champagne walking up to the Canada Strong microphone. You can see the two teleprompters and the crowd behind them, these poor children. You imagine having to stand still in one spot for 20 minutes while these guys talk. This was all strategically placed. This was all various ministers and various backbenchers and any of their support staff they could get to bring in their children. If you don't think that these children are told to stand exactly here right now, no matter what, I want you to pay attention to this lady here in the black suit with the white shoes. Can't really miss those white shoes. Now, Mark Carney is about to come out from behind these children. And if you pay attention to what she does, you'll see that she's telling him exactly where to stand. There she is pointing at the ground. Stand here, Mr. Prime Minister, or whatever she calls him. I'm sure she's never, like, this isn't the first time. And then he comes out because he thinks he's being charming with the children, and he makes a big joke about how he's going to stand right there. And then he stands right in front of the small child because that lady told him to, because she's the media consultant that they hired to set this up. And then immediately the camera goes tight, and bingo, we have the multicultural family that the Liberal Party is targeting with these announcements. We have all of the people on the right side of the screen, or the right as I look at the screen, looking over in one direction because they're being told what to say, how to stand and what to do by somebody off camera. And everyone else is just waiting around for them to be told their next. Wait till they're told that they can go. Now, you take a whole host of kids out of wherever they were in their day, obviously not at school, and you let them loose in a gymnasium and then tell them they all have to stand still. I mean, come on. And listen to, not only do they got to stand still, they got to listen to politicians talk about things they got no idea what they are on about. But the Liberal Party doesn't care because they're trying to craft a message. They're trying to make you think that they're all about the nuclear family. Everyone knows that the far left does not like the nuclear family. Everyone knows that the far left targets the father. There is so few fathers that are given custody in this country. There are so few fathers that even get access to their children after the separation. But they want you to, that's why there's so many men in the shot. They want you to think that they're all about the nuclear family all of a sudden. Because one thing they overlook when they import all of these people to get their votes, they overlook the fact that they are strong supporters of the nuclear family. And that creates a lot of division inside of their electorate. Now, I will get into that in different videos. This one, I just wanted to show you how much theater goes into these quote-unquote announcements, and how even though Mark Carney's up there at the podium trying to make you think that he's talking to a room full of people, all he's really doing is switching from one teleprompter to the other teleprompter, which is a trick they learned to make you think that they're talking to the crowd, just like I'm doing right now. Like somehow I got a crowd here right in front of me that I'm talking to. It's an old trick. They developed it in the 90s, and because they didn't want you looking down at the paper, which was even worse, you see. And that's why Mark Carney travels with a teleprompter everywhere he goes. Now that I've given you that snapshot a little bit behind the scenes and give you hopefully to understand, I tell you that so that those of you that are on the left can see through the facade, because once you can see through the facade, you'll understand it's smarter for you to vote to the right side of the aisle, better for your own life.
First, we are launching automatic federal benefits to help our most vulnerable get the money that they're entitled to. To start, we're going to launch what we're calling automatic federal benefits for more than 5.5 million low-income Canadians.
If we get 40 million people in this country and there are 5.5 million of them that he's calling low income, imagine we add 1 million of those that are just completely off the radar. And we have, what, an eighth of our country living below the poverty line. And this guy thinks that by offering you to give your information to the government, more information to the government, that's going to fix all your problems.
See, the situation is that millions of lower income Canadians don't file their taxes, either because they don't have the resources to do so, or because they think that their income is too low for it to matter.
Well, I mean, let's be straightforward. The only reason Mark Carney pays an accountant to do his taxes is because he doesn't want to give Canada any of his tax money, and he's desperate to get it out of the country.
And that means, too often, that the people who most need benefits often don't get them. Could mean missing out on the GST, HST tax credit, the Canada Child Benefit, the Canada Workers Benefit, the Canada Disability Benefit, and the Disability Tax Credit. I'll give another example. A single parent with 2 young children who earns $15,000 from a part-time job is eligible for substantial federal and provincial benefits. And using this new system, the CRA's new automated and free process, They'll need to just provide a few details, confirm their information on a pre-filled out tax form from the CRA. And then they will receive all the benefits to which they're entitled. In the case of the example I just gave, that's more than $25,000 for their family.
25 grand. Imagine you earn 15,000 and somehow you get 25,000 in taxes.
Canada's new government will start pre-filing tax returns in the 2026 tax year.
So let's recap. First of all, they want me to believe that there are single men with 2 children who are earning $15,000 a year part-time. Or do we believe that he's targeting single mothers who work part-time for 15 grand? Much of the systems inside of Canada allow them to keep all of that money and not get dinged on their monthly payments, because they get, the first of the month, and then they get their child tax credit in the middle of the month, and they get, all of the money. Well, you heard them, 25 G's they get over the course of a year, because the government wants them to trust the government, not their, baby daddy, not the man who gave them the child. No, I can't trust him. You have to trust some guy that you wouldn't recognize if you passed him on a street corner. And people will fall for it. Sadly enough, people will think in their mind right now, well, what do I got to tell them? Well, all you got to do is give them access to your bank account, access to your social insurance number, probably have to put an app on your phone so they can track you. Now, anybody who understands, unfortunately for Mr. Carney, I understand what it's like to live in poverty, and I understand what it's like to live on the wrong side of the tracks. So there's nobody in there that they're going to capture the vote they're hoping to get. They already have most of the vote from these single mothers, right? And single fathers single men that are living in poverty are not telling themselves that all of a sudden they're gonna start signing a bunch of papers so that they can get the government to mail them a check. It's just not going to happen. A GST check for $80, and all you got to do is give us access to your bank account. All you got to do is give us access to your entire life, so we can find out if you made a single solitary penny anywhere on the continent or in the country anyway. That's just not the kind of intrusion I want from the federal government. And of course, if you all of a sudden hit it big, the government's going to know all about that. And if you all of a sudden start to make decent money, the government's going to know all about that. So if you go from being poor to being even upper middle class, they're still going to be keeping track of all your finances. They'll never give you back the control, because they're going to convince you that everybody's going to do it anyway. Don't worry about it. It's all automated. It's all done by AI. No, don't worry. Now that you've given us those signatures, we are never giving you back control of your finances. We will forever be tracking how much money you got coming in, and we will forever be telling you when you owe us and when you don't. Because the single person making 15 G's, it doesn't get anywhere near the kind of bonus that a single mother making 15 G's gets. But he thinks that if he says it to you in this way, you'll all of a sudden be lined up around the corner. What I love is how a single individual, like a single mother with 2 children, says, well, how come I'm not getting a child tax? The first thing their worker says is, well, go to this address where they'll do your taxes for free. And so who does he mean? That they can't afford to do the taxes? Who does he mean? He just means all the people that he's trying to capture and get their information from, so he can understand how much of an underground economy is happening. Because it's not about how much taxes you may or may not be entitled to. It's about how much money's going into your bank account that you're not paying taxes on. It's about all those under the table jobs that you take care of, so that you can provide diapers, so that you can put food in your belly, so that you can struggle in that, little tiny apartment that you live, or the little room that you live in the rooming house. It's just about keeping track of you, because he thinks somehow, he says it this way, you're going to all of a sudden vote for him. There's no, like, if you want to be smart with your vote, you will vote for the conservative side of the aisle, because the conservative side of the aisle puts jobs out there. They don't go telling you that if you just sign this paper, the government's going to mail you money every month and it's all going to be wonderful and magic. Because every time they try that in every country in the history of humanity, there is always and forever 5 or 10 people that take all the wealth out of the country, and everybody else says, geez, I wonder if I can go to another country where I might be living better, United States of America. Don't be fooled by this. This is just a tactic. That's why they needed to put so many men in this shot, because those are the guys that they want filing their taxes, not because they want to help you out, but because they want to know how much money you're making when nobody's looking. This government is getting broke by the second, and they need to know where they can raise more money because they've taken it from the middle, they've destroyed the middle class in an effort to take all the taxes. They can't get after the people that are above that, the doctors and whatnot, because they already tried that with the capital gains tax. And who's left? 5 million people who might be making money underground.
As you know, C2 remains in Parliament. And as you also surely know, the bill contains all these sweeping lawful access powers for intelligence agencies and police. Now, I'm curious, are you comfortable with the notion that police or intelligence can go to any service provider? It can be doctors, counselors, child therapists, pharmacists, and obtain information about if someone is a client, since when, where they obtain those services without a warrant?
The two things. One is the bill has been divided into C2 and C12. What you just referred to were issues in C12. So we're talking about the same. No, it's divided into C2 and C12. There are two processes.
Oh, well, that must make it all better then, right? I mean, he's asked if he cares that these governments are going to have the sweeping power to snoop into every aspect of your life without getting the permission of a judge. And by saying to get a warrant, what he means is making sure that these people are following your civil and God-given rights, right? Protecting your right to privacy, protecting your right to live your life without the government coming into your bedroom, coming into your kitchen, coming into your car, coming into your phone, without the government whose intentions cannot be considered to be anything other than nefarious, because they're passing laws, or they're trying to pass laws that will allow them to spy on every aspect of your life from top to bottom without getting anybody's oversight, without having any permission. And he wants to get pedantic and say, oh, no, well, we split the two bills. What are you talking about? Answer the question. Are you comfortable with it? Obviously, you're comfortable with it because you drafted the law. That's the other thing that I want to say. Obviously, the reporter was asking a question that was redundant because they're the ones that drafted the law. They are obviously happy with it.
And what lessons have you taken from the fact that the first bill that your government ever tabled already had to be watered down and retabled?
I take the following lessons from the legislative record of this government. This is a government that cut taxes on day one. This is a government that passed the most comprehensive and what will be seen in the fullness of time impactful economic measure in decades, which is the One Canadian Economy Act.
I've noticed a couple of things about him and Philip Champagne lately when asked about the state of the economy and asked about it. They always say the same two things. They're saying, oh, we passed this One Economy Act, which is just something to try to convince you that everything is going to work out sooner or later. And they overreach, right? There's too many, like the provinces have control over who can sell what where, not the federal government. Also, they keep talking about how, well, we did this comprehensive tax cut, which everybody knows is a joke. I mean, I think it saves you like $180 over two people over the course of a year. It's nothing. But they don't want to, they're just trying to use the wording. And the one thing they're not talking about anymore, well, there's a couple, but the one thing that Mark Carney's government is not talking about anymore is the GST cut on houses, because everybody knows that was a complete failure. So they're leaving that out of their dialogue. They're leaving that out of their talking points. They're only saying the wording sounds great, right? Tax cut. But when you look deep, you see that it's nothing. And it sounds great, all comprehensive One Canada Act. But when you look closely, you see that it's absolutely nothing. But that doesn't seem to stop the Liberal government from saying it nonetheless. And that's an indication of the desperation. You see, that's because if they were honest, people that are honest and people that are open and people know that their stuff is working, they don't have to hide it. They don't have to pretend what their words are. They don't have to split hairs. They don't have to do any of that. They simply lay it out there and everything is good and everything is copacetic. But they cannot do that. They have to get tap dancing around the wording. They have to be careful with the language. They have to hire somebody to craft an image when they make an announcement. And that's because they're not the government that they claim to be. It's all a facade, just like when Mark Carney had those houses built behind him that had no plumbing, no water, no foundation. The Liberal government's economic policy, all of their governmental political policies have no foundation. Of course, Alberta still has no patience for Mark Carney, and Saskatchewan, now that the canola is coming apart, is absolutely going to be short-fused with Mark Carney. I'll do the canola differently. However, the media is well aware that Danielle Smith gave Mark Carney a deadline on a pipeline going to British Columbia, and they know that Premier Eby is trying to rally his base by saying, "No, you'll not cross my territory," and all the rest of the foolishness that comes out of the far left. And Mark Carney was asked about it. His answer exposes a lot.
This government believes in nation-building projects, which can, in both clean and conventional energy. Those projects have several characteristics: material economic benefits, linking together different parts of our economy, consistency with our climate objectives, and benefits and participation for Indigenous peoples. So those elements coming together can come together in a pipeline to the West Coast. It depends on the specific proposal, it depends on all of those elements. And this government will engage with proposals that have a possibility or prospect of achieving those.
So no, he's not, has no intention of giving a pipeline. If he did, he would simply say so. I mean, that's one of the things that the far left doesn't recognize when they talk about, when they listen to people like Donald Trump. He's not hiding anything. He's not tap dancing. He tells you straight to your face. And that's exactly why people like him. That is exactly why people like him, because they don't want to be fooled. They don't want to look for manipulation. They don't want to look under the surface. They don't want to do any of that. They simply want to know what your position is. They want to know what your answer is, especially certain aspects of the right side of the aisle. They don't want any games. They don't want any BS. They just want the truth. This is the facts. I'll do the rest from there. I will think for myself from that point. And of course, the person stating them doesn't have to tap dance, go, I thought about doing an counter, but he'd said it over 50 times in the course of 3 minutes, and I just didn't have the patience. So I just, you could hear him say 100 times because he has no answer. The only answer that he would have said quickly was, no, I have no intention of allowing that to happen because I have put 9 laws in place to make sure that it doesn't happen. Now, the thing that's interesting, and I'll do a report on this as well, Brookfield just finalized the deal with buying the 100% of the largest pipeline in the United States of America. They laid off 20% of the workforce, but they just finished buying 100% of it. Like, the deal is final now. So now they own 100% of the pipeline in Brazil. They own 100% of the largest pipeline in North America, largest pipeline in the Western Hemisphere, running from basically Texas to Maine. And anyone who has stock, who has their pension, if Brookfield is in control of their pension plan, if Brookfield is investing their money for them, is investing in oil and gas, is investing in pipelines. So how come it is that some of us in the country are allowed to invest in hydrocarbons, invest in fossil fuels, invest in pipelines? How come some of us are permitted to own and make money and get rich off the oil industry, and some of us, well, we have to wait for them to mail us GST checks, provided we tell them everything about our private lives? I don't know. That doesn't really sound like the Canada that many of us should be living in. That doesn't, to me, sound like a Canada of equality and inclusion and all the words that the far left like to rattle around, meaning none of them, but they say them nonetheless. I just want to understand how come it is Mark Carney with his Brookfield investments can make fat stacks of cash off the oil and the pipelines in Brazil and the pipelines in the United States of America, and a couple of them in Canada as well. And the rest of us cannot. We are not permitted to even make just a regular, ordinary day off of it. How come it is that Mark Carney can stop a pipeline being built while he invests in companies that purchase pipelines? And how come it is that the Quebec pension plans can invest in Brookfield, give their money to the control of Brookfield? Brookfield buys oil and gas, and then Quebec says, no, we don't want any oil and gas. That's all suspicious to me, and none of that makes any sense. And all of that, no matter where you land in that pile, at the worst, it's a conflict of interest. You might be thinking in your mind, but to me, it's worse that you're a hypocrite, that you're expecting from us that what you will not do for us. That's just my opinion. You can let me know what your opinion is down in the comments. I'm going to wrap here. Thank you for listening. I'll talk to you next time.